Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is already late July of 2025, and given that just recently CBS made the ultimate decision to fire and cancel Stephen Colbert, but not just Stephen Colbert, he's not going to be replaced, the entire show is going away off of CBS. The Late Show with is no longer going to be present on CBS by May of 2026. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, ever since Stephen Colbert got cancelled, we have seen an uptick in celebrities coming forward and voicing their opinions and getting very angry over the firing of Stephen Colbert. Now, I will be very direct with you all, and I've expressed my opinions on this before in the past. I was never a fan of Stephen Colbert on The Late Show, quote-unquote, and I was never really a fan of him actually shoehorning politics into a late show, and we've seen this happen time and time again, by the way, with Seth Meyers, with Jimmy Kimmel, and even at times with Jimmy Fallon. Maybe not as excessive as Kimmel or Colbert or even Seth Meyers, but the late night, programming as of late is just 110% political. That's all it is at this point. And it's not just all done in good fun or poking fun here and there. It's done as a way of messaging. It's done in a very, angry way of really, getting back at specific Trump supporters and really getting at, of course, one side of the country. It's just all so exhausting and tiresome, and that's exactly why people have been tuning out of late night television. And as I've said many times before, when it comes to movies, when it comes to television, when it comes to late night shows, you really should just divert from using politics and really should just refrain from doing that. But that's just my stance on things. However, going back to some actors here, such as Tom Hanks is the latest example. Ever since Tom Hanks gained backlash after mocking Trump supporters on SNL a couple of months ago and also getting overly political in the middle of film projects, one major development now involves more to do with Tom Hanks commenting on and getting very angry over firing and canceling of Stephen Colbert, and once again, turning over to politics. Hanks delivered the following: "Our democracy is at stake after what we just witnessed and what happened to the great and talented Stephen Colbert. This was a disgraceful decision made by CBS in fear of Donald Trump, our president who likes to act like a king in this country. To both his supporters and to those that maybe aren't caught up with politics, if you don't believe Colbert's firing had to do with anything with Trump's politics, then you got rocks in your head. Look, as an actor and as an entertainer, I think it's important for us to keep up with the god-awful things happening right now in our country, and like many others have pointed out, our right to freedom of speech and expression is now essentially dead, and it's over after what they did to Stephen Colbert. And I don't want to have to listen to the debate that Stephen Colbert went overboard with his politics. Late night television was always political, so I think people need to cut it out already with the false narrative floating around out there that people like Jay Leno or even Conan O'Brien never got political." Now guys, I have to stop Tom Hanks for a second there. Yes, they did make political jokes here and there, but it was done in a very, poking fun style, right? It wasn't done in a way where they were just, acting really aggressive, very angry live on television, and really trying to promote a message, right? It wasn't anything like that. What we see right now with Kimmel, Colbert, Seth Meyers, and more is so different to what we saw with Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien, and among others like Johnny Carson, for example, and even David Letterman. They all didn't really get into that territory. They just did pure entertainment and fun. Now, interestingly enough, he goes on to continue, "It's a poor argument coming from those on the right and those that follow and support Trump. As an actor who understands this industry very well, we deserve respect from the people. As actors and entertainers, we deserve to be heard. We are just like you, and that is something that should be acknowledged and respected. Colbert was a hidden gem in show business in the beginning, and he rightfully evolved late-night television in the long run into what it is today. If anyone believes that this was due to ratings or CBS losing millions of dollars, I think you were just actually going on Trump's side and his politics instead. Now guys, let me just say one thing about that. Now CBS even came forward, they actually confirmed that yes, a lot of this had to do with ratings, a lot of this had to do with the fact that Stephen Colbert was losing millions of dollars for CBS, so CBS admitted to this. Let's just point this out there. He goes on to actually allude further. That's the end of the story right there. As entertainers, politics are very important to us, and it should be a big part of entertainment. And this is something that I agreed on with many others like the great George Clooney, and even the talented Jimmy Kimmel. Trump is killing freedom of speech. It's over for us as Americans, and especially as actors. And American citizens need to get the education that they need right now after what happened to Stephen Colbert, because it could also happen to you in the workplace. Our industry is at stake right now. It isn't what it once used to be 8 months ago. This is a very dark time that we are living in. And with Trump calling for Jimmy Kimmel to get fired now, well, now that is just pure insanity. I am calling for all other actors to join in and to call out the acts coming from this administration that is only creating fear and panic for many American citizens. Now guys, let me just say one thing about Tom Hanks and others out there like George Clooney and Alec Baldwin. The reason why I really am beginning to just get really just overly tired of these actors constantly getting political, constantly just, not knowing their place or not staying in their lane, is the fact that they say things like that. We are just like you. We are just like the normal, hardworking American citizen. When in reality, look, let's be very real about this. They're really not the same at all. When you look at the overall core elements here, they are the people saying American citizens need to be educated because they're uneducated. They don't know what they're talking about, etc., etc. They say things like that, and people get offended over that. People just get very tired of all these actors, of all these actresses, personalities, celebrities, whatever it may be, spewing out all this nonsense and just getting very much overboard with their politics. People are done with it, and that's why people have called it quits with, people like Robert De Niro, George Clooney, Tom Hanks, Alec Baldwin. The list goes on and on. However, he goes on to close, especially those in show business who feel they don't have a voice anymore after what happened to Stephen Colbert. All I could say to Stephen is keep doing what you're doing while you can, and double down. Alright, so literally, now you have a lot of actors like Tom Hanks really just encouraging him to double down on the anti-Trump rhetoric, and this is exactly why it proves a point that people have been calling out for years now, that The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, it was nothing more than propaganda for many years. It's not really pure entertainment, it's all political, people are very tired of it. People want to actually turn to just entertainment these days. And look, we know that late night television, it's been flawed for a very long time, ever since Leno left, ever since Conan O'Brien left, and among others out there. The fact that you now have Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, and especially, others like Seth Meyers just using it as a political platform, that's why people have tuned out. Look, you can actually have a political platform, that's fine and all, but know your place, know your lane, and stay in it. And they just don't know when to stay in it. And it's not just the hosts to blame, it's the producers, it's the executives of these studios like CBS, ABC, etc., that like to actually spew out all this garbage. And look, they have no one else to blame but themselves. CBS, they were losing money, obviously, they even admitted to this, and yes, they did admit to this. They actually put themselves in that position, and they're putting themselves in that position even more so right now, allowing Stephen Colbert to double down, and to actually go with the gloves off, and to actually just triple down on the anti-Trump rhetoric. People are just exhausted. But overall, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.